It's a book of Robert Burns' poems that my mother gave me when I was 20 years old. It's 48 years ago now. It's falling apart, as you can see. But I'd like to read you a sonnet by Robert Burns. Sonnet on hearing a thrush sing on a morning walk in January. Sing on, sweet thrush, upon the leafless bough. Sing on, sweet bird, I'll listen to thy strain. See aged winter mid his surly reign, at thy blithe carol clears his furrowed brow. Thus in bleak poverty's dominion drear sits meek content, with light unanxious heart, welcomes the rapid moments, bids them part, nor ask if they bring aught to hope or fear. I thank thee, author of this opening day, thou whose bright sun now gilds yon orient skies. Riches denied, thy boon was purer joys, what wealth could never give nor take away. But come, thou child of poverty and care, the might high heaven bestowed, that might with thee I'll share. So it's Burns's, he was born 267 years ago today, 1759. Lived till 1796. He only lived till 37. Had quite an impact. This is, he did a lot of work with traditional tunes or even newly composed tunes in Scotland. And he, in this case, he took an old, this is a very old tune, it's 17th century. The old books, it's called Cold and Raw or Up in the Morning Early. And there was an earlier version of the lyric. He took the traditional chorus and wrote new words to it. And it's pretty good for this week. We've had some weather here in Chicago area. Cold blows the wind free, stay west. Adrift is driving saily, say lure and shells, I hear the blast. I'm sure it is winter fairly. Up in the morning snow for me, up in the morning early, when all the hills are covered with snow, I'm sure it is winter fairly. The birds sit chittering in the thorn, all day they fare but sparely, and longs the neck from mean to morn, I'm sure it is winter fairly. Up in the morning snow for me, up in the morning early, when all the hills are covered with snow, I'm sure it is winter fairly. Up in the morning snow for me, up in the morning early, when all the hills are covered with snow, I'm sure it is winter fairly. I've been researching Robert Burns' songs for going into my 11th year now. You wouldn't think there would be that much to study, but I keep turning over rocks. This is a song which was kind of reintroduced into circulation by a great Scottish singer named Dick Gaughan, Gaughan. He revived the song, but he didn't have the original melody. And the reason he didn't have the original melody is that Burns's editors have never put it with a lyric. They've decided it doesn't go. None of them have any background in songcraft, and all they can do is copy each other's mistakes. So this is the tune Burns wrote this song to. The tune is called I Had a Horse and I Had Nae Mair. I had a horse and I had no mare, no more, not a mare. And I'm taking the first stanza here from his first commonplace book, which was from 1785. He actually wrote this when he was 16. He revised it to be published when he was 26. His first book of poems, called it Song Composed in August. Fruitful Fells, the fruitful fells. A fell is a level area, like among, high hills and mountains, there'll be a level area. So the plover loves the fruitful fells. A lot of birds in the song, and he knew their names and how they behaved and everything else. Now breezy winds and slaughtering guns bring autumn's pleasant weather, and the moorcock springs on whirring wings among the blooming heather. Now waving grain wide o'er the plain delights the weary farmer, and the moon shines bright when I rove at night to muse upon my charmer. Something about doing live shows. I just like a brain fry, live on the internet. If I had an audience in front of me, it wouldn't happen. I lose concentration. I start worrying about other stuff. I screwed up the stanza and sang the usual one. I'm going to sing it again. Hi, everybody. I'm doing today's show in support of the people of Minneapolis. And if you can, I put a link to the Immigrant Rapid Response Fund of the Women's Foundation of Minnesota. I got some good friends up there. Now breezy winds and slaughtering guns bring autumn's pleasant weather, and the moorcock springs on whirring wings among the blooming heather. Now waving crops with yellow tops delight the weary farmer, and the moon shines bright when I rove at night to muse upon my charmer. The partridge loves the fruitful fells, the plover loves the mountains, the woodcock haunts the lonely dells, the soaring heron the fountains. Through lofty groves the cushat roves, the path of man to shun it. The hazel bush o'erhangs the thrush, and the spreading thorn the linnet. Thus every kind their pleasure find, the savage and the tender. Some social join and leagues combine, some solitary wander. Vaunt away the cruel sway, tyrannic man's dominion, the sportsman's joy, the murdering cry, the fluttering gory pinion. But to Peggy dear, the evening's clear, thick flies the skimming swallow, the sky is blue, the fields in view, all fading green and yellow. Then let us stray our gladsome way and view the charms of nature, the rustling corn, the fruited thorn, and every happy creature. We'll gently walk and sweetly talk till the silent moon shine clearly. I'll grasp thy waist and fondly pressed swear how I love thee dearly. Not vernal showers to budding flowers, not autumn to the farmer. So dear can be as thou to me, my fair, my lovely charmer. This is called the Rosebud. People call it a Rosebud by May Early Walk. Burns wrote this to a tune called The Rosebud that was composed by his friend David Siller, who was a running buddy from his youth. He also played the fiddle and wrote poetry, and they were great friends. So Burns wrote this really as a gift to the family who hosted him in Edinburgh during his first winter there, time of the blush of his first fame. And he was starting to write songs and collect music and create music for what is called the Scots Musical Museum, which turned out to be 6 volumes of 100 songs. He was the shadow editor of the book. This is one of his original pieces that are in there. He did a lot of collecting of preserving of traditional folk songs and ballads too. So a balk is spelled B-A-W-K, UK spelled it. Anyway, it's a balk. It's a unplowed area between farmers' fields that just to kind of hold the thing together. The Rosebud in the song is actually the daughter of this family. Her name was Janet Cruikshank. She's called Jeannie in the song. And he refers to trembling string or vocal air. She was actually about 12 years old, and she was a musical prodigy, and she was helping Burns by singing the songs and playing the tunes, back to him so he could, solve scanning problems and so on. Maybe it's too much info. Very beautiful song, The Rosebud. A rosebud by my early walk, down a corn and closed walk, so gently bent its thorny stalk, all on a dewy morning, ere twice the shades of dawn are fled, in all its crimson glory spread, and drooping rich the dewy head, it scents the early morning. Within the bush her covert nest, a little linnet fondly pressed, the chilly dew sat on her breast, so early in the morning, she soon shall see her tender brood, the pride, the pleasure of the wood, among the fresh green leaves bedewed, awake the early morning. So thou, dear bird, young Jeannie fair, on trembling string or vocal air, shalt sweetly pay the tender care that tends thy early morning. So thou, sweet rosebud, young and gay, shalt beauteous blaze upon the day, and bless the parents' evening ray that watched thy early morning. Ain't that lovely? Nothing like a nice cup of tea. Try this one. This is from Burns wrote a cantata. He was about 23. A cantata. There were 7 songs that we have. There's supposed to have ultimately been 10, but 3 lost. And there were recitations. It was like a Broadway show, what they called a ballad opera at the time. And 7 lyrics written to traditional tunes. And I think this is the best of them. It was about. It's called either Love and Liberty or The Jolly Beggars, and it was based on a crowd of impoverished folk with a lot of spirit that he encountered in a pub one night in Irvine. I think it was Irvine. Don't quote me on that. Anyway, he was 23. So this is called Son of Mars, and this guy, he was delighted. This man he was a veteran, but he just loved to fight. This guy. And he'd been over, this is, Burns lived through the American and French revolutions. There's a lot of war going on. Burns could have fought at Bunker Hill for that matter, but he wasn't really into the whole thing. And in fact, he was quite sympathetic to democracy and quite unsympathetic to the Hanoverian king. So this guy loved to fight. He mentions the Heights of Abram, which was in Canada, and Morro was a harbor in Cuba, I believe. Anyway, of course, he wrote it to the tune. Guy who loves to fight. What tune would he write it to? Soldier's Joy. I am a son of Mars who have been in many wars and show my cuts and scars wherever I come. This here is for a wench and that other in a trench when welcoming the French at the sound of the drum. Lolly doddle 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 dot dum. Lolly doddle 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 dot dum. Lolly doddle 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 dot dum. Lolly doddle 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 dot dot. My apprenticeship had passed where my leader breathed his last when the bloody die was cast on the heights of Abram. And I served out my trade when the gallant game was played and the Morolo was laid at the sound of a drum. Doddle 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 dot dum. Doddle 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 dot dum. Doddle 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 dot dum. Doddle 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 dot dot dum. I lastly was with Curtis among the floating batteries, and there I left for witness an arm and a limb. Yet let my country need me with Elliot to head me. I'd clatter on my stumps at the sound of a drum. Doddle 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 dot dum. Doddle 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 dot dum. Doddle 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 dot dum. Doddle 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 dot dot dum. And now though I must beg with the wooden arm and leg and many a tattered rag hanging over my bum, I'm as happy with my wallet, my bottle and my harlot as when I used in Scarlet to follow a drum. Doddle 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 dot dum. Doddle 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 dot dum. Doddle 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 dot dum. Doddle 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 dot dot dum. What though with hoary locks I must stand the winter shocks beneath the woods and rocks, oftentimes for a home, when the t'other bag a sell and the t'other bottle tell I could meet a troop of hell at the sound of a drum. Lolly doddle 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 dot dum. Lolly doddle 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 dot dum. Lolly doddle 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 dot dum. Lolly doddle 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 dot dot dum. Here's a more peaceful song. Burns was really not, he wrote a thing called On the Great Recruiting in the Year 17 dash during the American War. I murder hate by field or flood, though glory's name may screen us. And wars at home I'll give my blood, life-giving wars of Venus. The deities that I adore are social peace and plenty. I'm better pleased to make one more than be the death of 20. I don't have that one for you today. I usually spend a lot of time prepping for these shows, but I've been neck deep in some exciting new research related to the Burns songs, and half out of my mind with it. And I'll sing you one of the fruits of that little search in a bit. This is a song. It's called the Gardener wi his Padle. A padle is a hoe. It's the gardener with his hoe, and he wrote it to a tune. There's a fellow named James Aird who was a collector and a printer in Glasgow. I don't know if he printed his own books. They're little cheap books, but this man printed. There were 200 per volume, and there were 6 volumes. He was an incredible collector, indefatigable, and he was contemporary with Burns. Burns must have gone into his shop in Glasgow on more than one occasion. Burns had the first 4 sets of his books, and there's 3 or 4 tradesmen's tunes and marches in a row in one of these books, and he wrote songs to several of them. So this is the Gardener's March. Burns's father was a gardener, which we would call a landscaper in the U.S. That's how he was making his living. And then he was a market gardener growing vegetables to take to market. And then he leased a farm and began farming. It was lousy land, and the family worked very hard to not have much. But his father loved nature, a lovely man, talked to his kids a lot. Burns's mother was Agnes Brune. She was younger than William Burns. She knew a lot of ballads. She was a singer of songs and ran the dairy side of the operation. She was known for her cheeses. So Burns was the eldest of 7. Gardener wi his Padle. When Rosie May comes and we flowers to deck her gay green spreading bowers, and busy is ours, the gardener wi his Padle. The crystal waters gently fall, the merry birds our lovers are. The crystal breezes around him blow, the gardener wi his Padle. When purple morning starts the hair to steal upon her early fare, and through the dews he mun repair, the gardener wi his Padle. When day expiring in the west, the curtain draws of nature's rest, he flies to her arms he loves the best, the gardener wi his Padle. Love that little song. Here's a more Randy song. Now this existed in bawdy versions, which couldn't have been published in the Scots Musical Museum. And Burns wrote, I mean, it's about a young woman gets pregnant, but it's a socially acceptable version, and it's sometimes people say that he sanitized versions. This is completely reimagined, and it's an absolute tour de force, because he does something the other versions, which I have looked at, do not. The refrain is ha ha the Gurden note, okay, and the Gurden is it ties the saddle. It ties the saddle around the horse. So it's also a term for copulation, getting it on, and he uses the play on that and the Gurden of a horse. That imagery is used, and so she starts out saying, "Woe upon you! I used to go out and play, and now I have to jog the cradle with my toe, and all for the Gurden note." But she says, "Duncan, if you keep your oath, the beast again can bear us both." Like the horse metaphor, the passion can carry us both. And old Mess John, the minister, will mend the scathe, fix the harm, and clute the bad Gurden note, mend it, patch it, heal it. So, Duncan Gray. Weary for ye, Duncan Gray, ha ha the Gurden note. Wakey by Duncan Gray, ha the Gurden note. All the lave gay to their play, then I'm on sit the leland day. Cheek the cradle wi' my tay, and draw forth the Gurden note. Morning was the longest moon, ah, ah, the Gurden note, clouding o'er the hills aboon, ah, the Gurden note. Gurden brak the beast come down, a tent my kirchen paith my shoon. Duncan year and Uncle Loon way on the bad Gurden note. But Duncan, gin you keep your faith, ah, the Gurden note, I's bless ye wi' my inmost breath, ah, the Gurden note. Duncan, can you keep your faith? The beast again can bear us both, and old Mess John will mend the scathe and clute the bad Gurden note. Burns and his love songs. I'll do another one in fairly thick Scots. It's in vernacular Scots. It's called Young Jockey Was the Blithest Lad. Jock was Jack in English. So it's the name John. They didn't use that many names. They had about 5 names. You go through the border ballots, and they're all, occasionally there's a Peter, but they're a Jock and Watt. So this is Young Jockey Was the Blithest Lad, and that was the name of the tune in different fiddle tune books. That was the name of the tune. There may have been an older song, but I don't know if there was or not. I don't know if there was. Burns might not have known it. Created a beautiful piece out of just that line and the song. That's how he approached a lot of these tunes. And the tune I used William McGibbon's book. He's a great tunesmith, and it's called Jockey the Blithest in there. So, and I'm using his bass line. I've learned so much about music from just building the guitar parts when the tunes are printed with bass lines. McGibbon, James Oswald, just brilliant stuff. It's applied to everything else I play, my own songs, Irish songs, spirituals. And then they do stuff that I just never think of, and they do it once and it works. So let's see. Young Jockey was the blithest lad in our tune, or hereawa, or hereabouts. Hereaway, literally. Fu blithe, he whistled at the gaw. So blithe, full is used for so. So blithe, he whistled at the the prod, the cattle prod, oxen, actually. Fu blithely danced he in the hall. He roosed my een, say bonny blue. He praised my eyes. He roosed my waist, say genty sma, so dainty, small. Now my heart came to my mouth, when ne'er a body heard or saw. So they're dating. He's like the cool guy. He's like the cool guy in high school, you know. He's just competent and carefree. And in the second one, they're a couple, you know. Young jockey toils upon the plain, through wind and wheat wet, through frost and snaw, and o'er the lea I look fu fain, over the meadow I look so eagerly. As jockeys owsen hameward caw. Owsen are oxen. Caw has two meanings in Scots, C-A apostrophe. It means to caw, but it also means to drive. You know, a tinker would be cawing, you know, driving, hammering away. So he's driving the oxen home. Hameward caw. And I, the night comes around again, when in his arms he takes me all in his arms. And I, A-Y, means always. It doesn't mean yes. It means always. And I, he vows he'll be my own, as long as he has a breath to draw. If you're listening and you like the song, I want you to comment on it. Young jockey was the blithest lad, and I would do nor hear war. Fu blithe he whistled at the court, fu lightly danced he in the hall. He roosed my een, say bonny blue. He roosed my waist, say genty small. And I, my heart come to my mood, when ne'er a body heard or saw. Young jockey toils upon the plain, through wind and wheat, through frost and snow, and o'er the lea I look fu fain, when jockeys owsen hameward caw. And the next comes round again, when in his arms he takes me off. And I vows he'll be mine, as long as he has a breath to draw. Well, as you can see, Burns loved to write from women's points of view, and often wrote his better songs that way. His songs written as what he called compliments, sort of peons idealizing women, are not always his best pieces, in my view. So there were some lovely ones, however. Bonnie Wee Thing stands out. This one is Burns called this, it's called Anna, and it was written to a tune called The Banks of Anna, which was the song, and there was an Anna in that song. People say, although he never said, that he wrote this for a barmaid at the Globe Tavern, Dumfries, with whom he had an affair, and she had a child. Her name was Anne Park. So I'd mentioned a research discovery. I ran across a book. I didn't run across it. I've been turning over rocks for years. This one, it's been mentioned a couple of times, and the backs of books and on people's notes. There's a transcription of a bawdy song called Eppie McNabb, and they say this was in the Giblet Pie, and it was described as the first reprint of the Merry Muses, as if it were a reprint of that book. Well, I finally thought, I should look at this, text and track this book down. And you look on worldcat.org, the library system, and there's only 2 copies in the world. And one of them is in Oxford University, which is not a place that his Scots editors might have looked for books. Not that they were too interested in tracking down his bawdy sons anyway. They've kind of printed a token number and tried to keep them at arm's length for trying to protect his reputation, basically. So the other one is at the University of Kansas at Lawrence. And Elspeth Healy there, their special collections curator, made me a copy of the entire book. And it's not a reprint of the Merry Muses of Caledonia. It's an independent transcription. And there are different English versifiers in there. It's very easy to tell the ones that came from Burns. Many of them are in the Merry Muses. There's 39. 2 of them seem to be corrupted. The rest there's 10 that are significantly different lyrics, and 4 that eventually got out somehow, and 3 which were collected songs. He clearly didn't write them, but they're interesting songs, have just disappeared for a couple of centuries. So I've been over the moon about this book. And to me, the crown jewel of it is we have, I think, 3 versions of this Anna song. And people usually print the one from what's called the Glenn Riddell manuscript. And in that one, Anna has the golden locks. And I really like the one in the Merry Muses better because it said raven locks. And it had a postscript there. It's an extra stanza with postscript in another hand, it says. Well, there's another manuscript where the postscript actually, the first part of it is there in his hand. So he wrote it. And there was a line in there I didn't like. Anyway, this copy in the Giblet Pie had a word different. And it's just strikingly poetic and meaningful. And it's the word for stars in Scots, but it has another meaning, and it's starns, star with an N on it. And starn, the definition is star, the eye, the pupil of the eye. It's like, in the first place, the N in there, he's playing into the sounds of the name Anna in the third. This just transcendent 4 lines. It says, come in thy raven plumage night, sun, moon, and starns withdrawn, and bring an angel pen to write my transports wi' my Anna. So he says the name Anne 5 times, and he's adding with starns the sound of the N also, which is all over the verse. I don't know if other people are blown away by this, but Burns called this the best love song I ever wrote in my life, and I wouldn't have agreed with him until this version just bowled me over. I will sing it for you in full with a postscript. Okay, ilk starn means each star. Diana's the moon. Yestreen I had a pint of wine, a place where bodies sauna. Yestreen lay on this breast of mine, raven locks of Anna. The hungry Jew in wilderness, rejoicing o'er his manna, was Nathan tame any bliss upon the lips of Anna. Ye monarchs talk the east and west, friendless to Savannah. Give me within my straining grasp the melting form of Anna. Then I'll despise imperial charms and Empress or Sultana, while die in raptures in her arms. I give and take with Anna. O all thou flaunting God of day, O all thou pale Diana, hilt's turn gay hide thy twinkling ray, time to meet my Anna. Come in thy raven plumage night, sun, moon, and stars withdrawn, and bring an angel pen to write my transport's way, my Anna. Kirk and state may join and tell, to do such things I canna. The Kirk and state may gate to hell, and I'll gate ye, my Anna. She is the sunshine o'er me, to live but her I canna. Had I on earth but wishes three, the first should be my Anna. To live but her. I canna. But her means without her. To live without her. And that usage appears also in this song, which is a political piece called Such a Parcel of Rogues in a Nation. That was the name of the tune. And the tune also likely referred to the Scottish lords who voted for the Act of Union with England in 1707. So Burns takes the point of view of an old man in this. And there's historical references to Wallace and Bruce. Robert the Bruce defeated Edward the Hammer of the Scots, son of a bitch, in 1314 to really establish Scottish nationhood permanently. But the one who lit the flame when they were completely under the boot of Edward I was William Wallace, an incredible guerrilla fighter. They were really an oppressed people, and he rose up like a flame. He lived at the end of the, 1200s, and he was executed and dismembered. I mean, he was just tortured, and his body displayed around the country to intimidate the Scots. But he lit a flame, and the flame has never gone out. So, such a parcel of rogues in a nation. There's another usage in here. But is used, but pith or power till my last hour. Even though I don't have vigor or power because I'm old, I'm still going to say what I have to say. And then the or is in Scots, it's not always a conjunction. Sometimes it means before. So when he says, "Oh, would or I had seen the day," means before I'd seen the day. So here we go. It's one of Burns' really greatest songs. Its lyrics are just like beaten gold here. Farewell to our Scottish fame, farewell our ancient glory, farewell even to the Scottish name, say famed in martial story. No sarkrins o'er the Solway sands, and Tweederans to the ocean, to mark where England's province stands. Such a parcel rogues in the nation. What force or guile could not subdue through many warlike ages is wrought now by a coward few, for hireling traitors' wages. The English still we could disdain, secure in valor station, but English gold has been our pain. Such a parcel of rogues in the nation. Oh, would or I had seen the day at treason thus could sell us, my old graded linen clay, a Bruce and loyal Wallace, but pith and power till my last hour, I'll mark this declaration, we're bought and sold for English gold. Such a parcel of rogues in the nation. Here's another narrative from an older sage. This is kind of a standard literary form, but this is real personal for Burns. He wrote this 2 or 3 months after his father died. His father was a really upright, moral, hardworking man who was leased some, less than stellar farmland. And there were bad growing seasons. And he was hounded to the door of his grave by a creditor, the factor, the representative of the guy who owned the land. So it's called Man Was Made to Mourn. And the line came from a song that was old song from like 1640. Burns had an uncle, a blind uncle, and he said his greatest pleasure was to listen to. Maybe it was a great uncle. Anyway, to listen to the aunt sing the song, and he would cry. It was his greatest pleasure, he said. So he just took that line, "Man was made to mourn," and he wrote 11 stanzas of understated, ferocious anger. That's what I hear in it. Other people think it's depressing, but I've been surprised. I have 170 Burns songs on YouTube. I'm hoping to put up that number again. There's some of them are tricky to learn, but I hope to get as many as possible posted. And I hope you will subscribe if you're not subscribed. But what I'm getting at is this song has gotten a lot of response. I mean, hundreds of views where often I get, 37 and then be one, never know with people. But this has resonated. And there's a very famous phrase we all use. It was coined in this song by Robert Burns, and that is, "Man's inhumanity to man," comes from this song. I'm doing a version that is better than the one he published and has been published since. It's from his first Commonplace book. So it was when he first wrote it. Do I have time to go into this? I do. In the Commonplace book, the early draft, you'd think it was the later draft. It's so much better written. This one verse says, if I am doomed, yon lordling slave, by nature's hand designed, why was an independent wish e'er planted in my mind? Hand, plant, imagery, it just ties up, doomed. So in the next one, he uses nature's law, which he's already used earlier, and instead of hand, and loses the force of that internal rhyme. And he uses the word design twice, which is, I don't know, it just sounds like he was in a hurry to get the book printed. If I'm designed, yon lordling slave, by nature's law designed, why was an independent wish e'er planted in my mind? That's the only version ever gets published. So you get real stuff here, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. When chill November's surly blast made fields and forests bare, one evening as I wandered forth along the banks of Ayr, I spied a man whose aged step seemed weary, worn with care. His face was furrowed o'er with years, and hoary was his hair. Hoarfrost, hoary, white. Young stranger, whither wanderest thou? Began the reverend sage. Does thirst of wealth thy step constrain, or youthful pleasures rage, or haply pressed by cares and woes, too soon thou hast begun to wander forth with me to mourn the miseries of man? Yon sun that hangs o'er Carrick moors, that spread so far and wide, where hundreds labor to support the lordly castle's pride. I've seen yon weary winter sun twice 40 times return, and every time has added proofs that man was made to mourn. Oh man, while in thy early years, how prodigal a time, misspending all those precious hours, thy glorious youthful prime. Alternate follies take the sway, licentious passions burn, which tenfold force gives nature's law, that man was made to mourn. Look not alone on youthful prime, or manhood's active might. Man then is useful to his kind, supported is his right. But see him on the edge of days, with cares and labors worn, then age and want, oh ill-matched pair, show man was made to mourn. Have you seen favorites of fate in pleasure's lap caressed? Yet think not all the rich and great are likewise truly blessed. But oh, what crowds in every land, oh, to wretched and forlorn, through weary life this lesson learn, that man was made to mourn. Many the ills that nature's hand has woven with our frame, more pointed still we make ourselves regret, remorse and shame. And man, whose heaven-erected face the smiles of love adorn, man's inhumanity to man makes countless thousands mourn. Tell it, Robert. See yonder poor o'er-labored wight, so abject, mean, and vile, who begs a brother of the earth to give him leave to toil, and see his lordly fellow worm the poor petition spurn, unmindful though a weeping wife and helpless offspring mourn. But let not this too much, my son, disturb thy youthful breast. This partial view of humankind is surely not the last. The poor oppressed honest heart had never sure been born, had there not been some recompense to comfort those that mourn. O death, the poor man's dearest friend, the kindest and the best, welcome the hour my aged limbs are laid with thee at rest. The great the wealthy fear thy blow, from pomps and pleasures torn. But a blessed relief for those that weary laden mourn. Here's one that very obscure. It's, people don't know it. It was written in English. Burns got excited about a book that was published in 1784. He picked up when he was in Edinburgh, and probably 86, and it was called A Collection of Highland Vocal Airs by Patrick MacDonald. And this is in there. It's a Perthshire air. Oren-Cule is the Gaelic name. The Song of Death, it's translated right there, and he wrote Song of Death to that. Farewell, thou fair day, thou green earth and ye skies, now gay with the broad setting sun. Farewell, loves and friendships, ye dear tender ties, our race of existence is run. Thou grim king of terrors, thou life's gloomy foe, go frighten the coward and slave. Go teach them to tremble, fell tyrant, but no terrors hast thou to the brave. Thou strikes the dull peasant, he sinks in the dark, nor saves in the wreck of a name. Thou strikes the young hero a glorious mark, he falls in the blaze of his fame. On the field of proud honor, our swords in our hands, our king and our country to save, while victory shines on life's last ebbing sands. Oh, who would not die with the brave? Well, they aren't all grim. Many are not. Burns is people are trying to diagnose him from 200 years on. Some people say he's manic depressive. I think he was just an artist. That's what I say about myself. I get these inward states, but you come out with a baby, you know. Something's going on in there. I don't really want to be diagnosed for that. I just want to create. Thank you very much. I'm not belittling the real difficulties that people have, or that I have, but when you look at Burns's work, he'll get very low, but he comes right up again. I mean, chronologically, it's just, he's got a line in his kind of a self-portrait. He'll have misfortunes great and small, but I a heart above them all. So this is called the Burkes of Aberfeldy, and it's what you call blithe. It's just the loveliest thing. Burke is a birch tree, and this is a grove. A grove is a shaw. It's called a shaw, and he uses that word here in the rhyme, where he does this incredible thing with language in the middle of the song, which I thought it was kind of a pretty song. And I was driving up 294 around Chicago, and I had Gene Redpath made 3 CDs solo, and there's 100 Burns songs on the 3 CDs, and this is one of them. And I was listening to her sing. You want to avoid the Serge Hovey Gene Redpath CDs, these pompous, ponderous arrangements. God, they're all just god awful after the first one. These long, rambling breaks, and poor Jean. I think she did this after it was done just to clear her palate and do Burns some justice. And boy, did she sing the hell out of this song. So I'm listening to her sing, and for the first time, I really heard what Burns was doing with language, and I had tears streaming down my face. I had to pull off into an oasis for a few minutes. So what he does is he takes that phrase, the Burkes of Aberfeldy, and they're the object of a preposition through the first chorus and the first 2 verses and choruses. So you're in the middle of the song, and then he makes them the subject, and he does it so subtly and effortlessly, but it has this feeling of, the old chorus, it was a traditional chorus, Bonnie Lassie, will you go to the Burkes of Aberfeldy? And it just has this feeling of having arrived, and not only of having arrived, but having become one with the place and the person you're with, as might happen to you 2 or 3 times in your blessed life if you're very lucky. The Burkes of Aberfeldy. Nu simmer blinks on flurry breeze, and o'er the crystal streamlets blaze. Come, let us spend the lightsome days in the Burkes of Aberfeldy. Bonnie lassie, will you go? Will you go? Will you go? Bonnie lassie, will you go to the Burkes of Aberfeldy? The little birdies blithely sing, while o'er their heads the hazels hing, or lightly flit on wanton wing in the Burkes of Aberfeldy. Bonnie lassie, will you go? Will you go? Will you go? Bonnie lassie, will you go to the Burkes of Aberfeldy? The lofty braes ascend like walls, the foamy stream deep roaring falls, o'er hungry fragrance spread in shaws, the Burkes of Aberfeldy. Bonnie lassie, will you go? Will you go? Will you go? Bonnie lassie, will you go to the Burkes of Aberfeldy? The hoary cliffs are crowned with floors, white o'er the lins the burnie pours, and rising wets with misty showers, the Burkes of Aberfeldy. Bonnie lassie, will you go? Will you go? Will you go? Bonnie lassie, will you go to the Burkes of Aberfeldy? Let fortune's gifts at a random flee, they ne'er shall draw away stray me, supremely blessed with love and thee in the birks of Aberfeldy. Bonnie lassie, where you go, where you go, where you go? Bonnie lassie, where you go to the birks of Aberfeldy? Well, ain't that lovely? This is a young fella from Hibbing, Minnesota. Saw this in a high school textbook. He saw this lyric, and it inspired him to write poetry. Bob Dylan credits Robert Burns as his greatest inspiration. What he doesn't know, of course, is that that lyric was written as a song, and that it was cobbled together from a bunch of older songs and older lyrics. The Rocks Melt with the Sun, We're 10,000 Miles. Those are floating around in various versions. But Burns put this thing together with this tune in the most stunning way. It's just a sublime work of art. A Red, Red Rose. And he wrote this to a tune by Neil Gow. He set it to the tune, which is called Major Graham. Burns liked to match his imagery to the shapes of melodies, and not just the imagery, but he'll often do it on the subject. So he doesn't have the word spring. He actually has the rose spring. And with this tune, the rose springs an octave in the first line. It's a beautiful touch. Oh, my love's like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Oh, my love's like the melody that's sweetly played in tune. As fair art thou, my bonny lass, so deep in love am I, and I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas gang dry. Till all the seas gang dry, my dear, and the rocks melt with the sun, and I will love thee still, my dear, while the sands of life shall run. And fare thee weel, my only love, and fare thee weel a while, and I will come again, my love, though it were 10,000 miles. Here's another lyric that Burns wrote to a Neil Gow melody. In fact, a woman asked him to write a song for her, a lyric to this tune. And he did. It's called Lady Catherine Strathspey is the name of the tune by Neil Gow. And it's never been published with the lyric. I've been researching Burns songs for a while now, and I'm really righteously pissed at the carelessness with which generations of editors have treated his body of work, as if the tunes don't matter, as if he were not a master of writing to tunes. Some editor will intrude their own creative, idiotic idea, and they'll just copy that. You know, James Dick published all the tunes in 1903, and he said he had taken the tunes from representative sources from the beginning of the 18th century, completely ignoring the books that Burns was using, and just putting whatever tunes he liked in. Well, Burns would say often to take this tune from Aird's book or from Oswald. So it's best to start with his sources when you're seeking tunes. And I found this. I mean, his manuscript said it was Lady C. Stuart's Strathspey. I went on the Scottish Music Index, and there it was in a book he used a lot. First collection of Neil Gow's collection of Strathspey reels. So here it is. It's called To a Woodlark. And again, this is the early draft. He wrote a later draft, sent it to his second publisher. So this is a heartbroken man, and he's gone out to talk to a bird, the woodlark, and he says, "Please teach me your song, because that would touch her heart," and begs the bird not to fly away. "Oh, stay, sweet warbling woodlark, stay, nor quit for me the trembling spray. A hapless lover courts thy lay, I soothing fond complaining. Again, again, that tender part, that I may catch thy tuneful heart. For surely that would touch her heart, who kills me with disdaining. Say, was thy little mate unkind, and heard thee as the careless wind of naught but love and sorrow joined? Such notes a woe could walk in. Thou talks of grief and endless care, the speechless woe and dark despair. For pity's sake, sweet bird, name e'er, or my poor heart is broken. Well, I don't know how much more I'll do tonight. What do I want to do? Well, I want to do this one. There's a famous song called "A Man's a Man for All That." This is an early version of it that I found. I think it's the best. And let's see, a birkie, like a birch. It's this lively fellow, a birkie, but it's a familiar phrase. So he's talking about a lord, and he's using a very familiar word to say. It's like calling Donald Trump a dude. It's showing no respect for persons, especially for persons who are jerks, or the word for jerk in Scots is coof. He's but a coof. So this is more radical, humbler, and better written than the very famous version. I don't know why his editors have suppressed it, but we're going to bring it out here. He doesn't say a prince can make a belted knight. He says the king can make a belted knight, but an honest man's above his might. Well, this was sent around to chapbooks anonymously because it would have cost Burns his government job as a tax assessor. That was why it wasn't published during his life, but there's no excuse since then. It was published sort of in underground, anonymously in private chapbooks. There's another fine version of it that was published by his friend William Reed a month after he died, with credit to his name. What though unhamely fair we dine, hard and grey and all that, give fools their silk and knaves their wine. A man's a man for all that, and all that, their tinsel show and all that. An honest man, though ne'er so poor, is chief of man for all that. Is he on Berkey called a lord, who struts and stares and all that, though hundreds beckon at his nod, he's but a coof for all that. For all that and all that, his dignities and all that, the pith o' sense and wail o' worth are better far than all that. A king can mak a belted knight, a marquis duke and all that, but an honest man's above his might. Good faith, he mustn't fall that. For all that and all that, his garter stars and all that, pith the sense and wail o' worth. Sorry, I screwed this up and I'm going to do it again. I've been getting these 6-hour sleep nights when I need 8. It's been a distressing time in the United States of America. And I did a 2-hour show on Facebook earlier today, and then I went and sang for my dad for over an hour at the nursing home. So I'm getting warmed up here. The brain is not grabbing the words. What though unhamely fair we dine, hard and grey and all that, give fools their silk and knaves their wine. A man's a man for all that. For all that and all that, their tinsel show and all that. An honest man, though ne'er so poor, is chief of man for all that. Is he on Berkey called a lord, or struts and stares and all that, though hundreds beckon at his nod, is but a coof for all that. For all that and all that, his dignities and all that, a man of independent mind can sing and laugh at all that. The king can mak a belted knight, a marquis, a duke, and all that, but an honest man's above his might. Good faith, he maunna for that. For all that and all that, his garter stars and all that, the pith, the sense, and wail o' worth are better far than all that. And let us pray the time may come, as come it will for all that, when sense and truth o'er all the earth shall bear the gree and all that. For all that and all that, and come it will for all that, and man the wide world o'er shall brothers be, and all that. Frederick Douglass escaped from slavery in 1838, I think, and he found a collection. He acquired a collection of Burns's poems in New Bedford, Massachusetts, and he used to quote him in his speeches. In 1846, he'd become a famous abolitionist, and his autobiography is one of the great slave narratives. And he traveled to Scotland on a speaking tour, and he took time out to visit Robert Burns's youngest sister. She was surviving. Her name was Isabel Begg. And he came back to Rochester, and the following year he attended a Burns supper. And he told them about his trip to see Isabel Begg and the stories she told. And then he said, "But ladies and gentlemen, this is not a time for long speeches. I do not wish to detain you from the social pleasures that await you this evening. I repeat again that although I am not a Scotchman and have a colored skin, I am proud to be among you this evening. And if any think me out of my place on this occasion, let the blame be placed at the door of him who taught me that a man's a man for all that." So there's a connection. Robert Burns had a brush with getting involved in the slave system. He was in a bit of trouble. He'd impregnated Jean Armour, who was 19, and her parents were furious with him. He thought they might put him in debtor's prison. He was kind of out of his mind in this period of life. And he had booked a passage 3 times on a boat to a job on a slave plantation in Jamaica, Charles Douglas slave plantation. And he just managed to keep missing the boat. And he published this book of poems called Poems Chiefly in the Scottish Dialect. And he lived in southwest Scotland in Ayrshire. Fairly sparsely populated area. And to his surprise, his book sold out inside of 3 months. He had 11 copies left out of 600. And he printed it to raise money for his passage. When one of those copies got to Edinburgh and into the hands of Henry Mackenzie, who was he'd written a book called The Man of Feeling. Sentimental novels were popular, and he was writing in that style, and he was the chief literary figure. And he wrote a review of Burns's poems, and he said basically he's our Shakespeare, and said he was a heaven-taught plowman, how he described him, which is a load of bullshit, because Burns got an education on his farm, and he was a big bookworm. That's his dirty little secret. Robert Burns was an intellectual, not a drunkard. Anyway, he borrowed a pony, rode to Edinburgh, was presented there. He was a Mason, and he was presented, at a meeting of the Masonic gentry, the well-heeled, as Brother Burns, Caledonia's bard. Caledonia is the old Latin name for Scotland. And they all got behind subscribing to the second edition of his book. And he sold the copyright to his book for enough money to get his whole family out of poverty, buy a farm, marry Jean Armour. He was a famous poet. He did not fit into literary society in Edinburgh. He ended up going back to farming and writing songs basically for the rest of his life. The only really well-known poem he wrote after the poems he wrote in the year and a half following his father's death were Tam O'Shanter. He was really dedicated to songwriting for his getting his songs published in the Scots Musical Museum, which was turned out to be 600 songs in 6 volumes of 100 songs printed, you know, every couple of years. The last one took 6 years to get out after he died. He preserved a lot of traditional Scottish culture and brought it forward. This is a late life reflection. I think I'm going to do 2 more because my brain is fried. And thank you very much for listening. And I'm doing tonight's show as a benefit for the Minnesota Women's Foundation of Minnesota is doing a Immigrant Rapid Relief Fund, and they're on the ground up there in Minneapolis. If people need to hide, they're getting them enough to eat and so on. So this is about his brush with slavery and that whole system. This is written to an Irish tune called The Humours of Glen. There groves of sweet myrtles, let foreign lands reckon, where bright beaming summers exalt the perfume. Far dearer to me on Lone Glen, a green bracken, with the burn stealing under the long yellow broom. Far dearer to me are these humble broom bowers, where the bluebell and gowan lurk lowly unseen, for they're lightly tripping among the wildflowers, a-listening the linnet oft wanders my Jean, a-listening the linnet oft wanders my Jean. Though rich is the breeze in their gay sunny valleys, and cold Caledonia's blast on the wave, their sweet scented woodlands that skirt the proud palace, what are they? The haunt of the tyrant and slave. The slave's spicy forests and gold bubbling fountains, the brave Caledonian views with disdain. He wanders as free as the winds of his mountains, save love's willing fetters, the chains of his Jean. Save love's willing fetters, the chains of his Jean. I'll try one that I haven't played in a while. It's by another great Scottish song poet, a real hero, Hamish Henderson, he was born in Perthshire in 1919. I'm going to close with this one. And his father was kind of a player. He wasn't in the picture. His mother had been a nurse, an army nurse in World War One. She was about 40 when he was born. And by the time he was 10, she had died of cancer. What becomes of a child like that? Well, he already spoke English and Gaelic, and there was a schoolmaster took a shine to him. He ended up learning 5 European languages fluently and won a scholarship to, was it Cambridge? Anyway, he went to college. He was of a pacifist socialist bent. He loved the socialist labor leader, John Maclean, another of the great martyrs to Scotland. John Maclean is mentioned in this song. There's a lot in this song. Before World War II, he spoke German. He helped smuggle a Jewish guy out of Germany. When he found out what was going on in the camps, he joined the army. He was an intelligence officer, fighting first in North Africa, and he wrote a lot of great war poetry. It's in Scots, as this song was, so he's not so well known if you don't know Scots, Hamish. But then he was in Italy. He was in Sicily. He wrote a famous song called "The 51st Highland Division's Farewell to Sicily" to a pipe tune. This one was also written to a pipe tune. Like Burns, he wrote to existing melodies. He was a friend of Mandela's. After the war, well, he was responsible for interrogating the Italian prisoners because he spoke Italian. And eventually, he was part of winning World War II. So what did this man do when he went back to Scotland? He co-founded the School of Scottish Studies in Edinburgh to preserve folk songs and ballads. He did a lot of recording. He made one trip with Alan Lomax recording, and he recorded a lot of the music from the Romany people. They're called gypsies then, which is a term, I don't know if it's fallen out of favor or not, but recorded, it's used as a slur. They were really looked down on and oppressed. They were traveling people with a traditional culture, but they were bearers of this incredible song traditions. And he discovered this great singer named Jeannie Robertson and put her on in concert and so on. And he got these people played on the BBC, and he kind of changed the way people felt about them. They really loved him. He made a difference there, and was a mentor to Dick Gaughan, who does a stunning version of this song in Scots, and it's on YouTube. It's called "The Freedom Come All Ye." Look up Dick Gaughan doing it. I, over a period of decades, got a reasonable translation of this because it needs to be understood. It's his prayer for the world. It was written in 1960. And well, he mentions John Maclean, who was dead at the time. And he also mentions a black boy, Feiont Nyanga, dengs the fell gallows of the Burgers Doon. The last line. It's one of those stunning lines of poetry I've ever run across. A black boy from beyond Nyanga tears or knocks the fell gallows, the wicked gallows of the burghers down. Down, down. It's like burying an axe in the ground, that line. So there was a poem written by an Afrikaner poet, Ingrid Jonker, I think was her name. And it was called, it addressed the child who was shot and killed by the police at a demonstration. Can you imagine such a thing? Law enforcement killing someone at a demonstration. And she said in this poem, the child is not dead. He's watching you. He's watching you through the window. was listening at legislations. This is apartheid South Africa. She said the child roams through Africa without a pass. So it's about the agency of the ancestors, among other things. And I'm going to sing this and say goodnight. Rough the wind in the clear day's dawning, blows the clouds helter-skelter o'er the bay. But there's more than a rough wind blowing through the great glen of the world today. It's a thought that would have our vermin, all those rogues who go bold in finery, seek the road, seeking greener pastures, with their ill ploys to sport and play. No more will the bonny young men march to war when our braggarts grow for pride, nor we children from Pithead and Hamlet mourn the ship sailing down the River Clyde, and broken families in lands we've harried. No more curse Scotland the brave from grief and care. Black and white, one to the other married, make the vile barracks of their masters bare. So come all ye at home with freedom, never heed the hooded crows that croak for doom. In your home all the babes of Adam can find bread, barley, brew, and painted room. And when MacLean meets with his friends in Springburn, the roses and cherry trees will bloom all round, and a black boy from beyond Nyanga tears the fell gallows of the burghers down. Keep the faith, friends. Thank you for listening. Okay, how do I get out of here? End stream. Yes.